and mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Hello. Welcome, everyone who's listening, tuning in. Welcome to another fabulous, dope show of Chill Will Radio, man. It's Chill Will Radio, episode number 33. Not 32, 33. But welcome, man, to Chill Will Radio, man. Here, I'm Willis Cooks. We're doing all things mental health. We're talking about all things mental health, the good, the bad, the ugly, the taboo, the not so taboo, the things that we don't want to speak about. Everything that should be spoken about here will be spoken about here, man, in a real way, as real as possible. So thank you for everyone that's listening. Thank you for everyone that's tuning in, man. My man Terrence, glad to be able to tune in, man. Shouts out to you, my man Terrence. Thank you for everyone that's tuning in. Everyone, if you're tuning in right now at the moment, like I said with Terrence, man, comment, tune in, let me know what's up. Just say what's the deal. You don't have to say much. I always just want to acknowledge those individuals who are listening in. So if you're listening, thank you. If you're going to be listening halfway through the show because you got something going on right now, thank you. If you're going to be listening tomorrow, next week, next year, next month, whenever you get the time, on your toilet, while you're in the shower, however you listen to it, good looking. Whenever you listen to it, good looking. But even more so, if you're never going to listen to this at all, man, I appreciate you too, man, because I always say you're the one individual who at least gives me a little bit more motivation in knowing that I need somebody else to grab so they can listen and tune on in, even if it's just not my mental health show, but just be mindful of your mental health in some type of capacity. So if you haven't caught on yet, you will catch on eventually. Catch on my show, all the shows on the Good News Radio, man, whether it's the Good News Sports, Good News here, Good News there, whenever. This thing is going good, man. Keith, what's popping? So, quick little check-in. How was my week? How am I doing as we get the ball rolling, as everything starts going, man? My week has been fine, right? I guess I should say this now. Within like 2 weeks, I'll be going to Peru. Yeah, within 2 weeks, I'll be going to Peru, man. And one of the shows will be pre-recorded. I'm not sure which show, but I'll be in Peru for 2 weeks. It's a well-needed vacation. As hard as I work, as much as I work. Keith, I know you listening. I watched your Instagram story today. You was like, you worked like 26 to 27 days straight, man. And one of the things that popped up in my mind as I was listening to you talk, Keith, was about how there's always those individuals who's going to say, like, I don't know how you could do this, and it's too much, and this like that. The thing is, and I'm sure Keith could definitely attest to this, the thing is, when you're doing something that you actually love or something that you actually like, one, working all of those days consecutively, right, it's not going to feel like you're working at all. Two, right, if you're working those jobs in a different ways, right? So like me, I work every day, every single day. But every day I'm doing a different job, but it's all within the same field, right? So Keith has all these bunch of different jobs. He wears all these different hats, but they're all within the same field, right? They're all within the field of something that he loves, so it doesn't really feel like work. Me, myself, I'm doing a bunch of different jobs. Every single day I have to wear a different hat, but they're all within the mental health field. So I'm never really taking a break. However, Keith, right, one of the biggest things that I've had to understand is that you are going to need that time once to just break down and just reset your mind, right? We're going to have to reset our mind at some point in time, right? Because I've been on those times where I'm working 20 plus days straight, right? Just because you get in that, I guess, that grind or that mode, or you just don't feel like stopping, or you got bills or certain to pay, but you're always going to need that break to just chill. Even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever, you're going to need that break to just chill. And granted, you deserve a break, right? I think a lot of us, we sometimes don't really give ourselves the ability to just sit down because we don't think we deserve it. Like, nah, if you work your butt off, if you work your ass off every single day in whatever field you're doing, if you're a construction worker, if you're picking up the trash, if you entrepreneur, whatever, right? You're going to need that break, right? Keith said, nah, it's like a rhythm after a while. It is like a rhythm after a while, right? Every single day it is like a rhythm. But the thing is like, you're definitely going to need a break, right? I used to be one of those individuals that I think my body's impenetrable, right? I think I'm fine. I think I'm good. But you're going to need a time in which you completely disconnect from whatever you're doing, because you're going to have to step away and just reset your mind. You're going to have to step away just to reset your spirit and just so new things can start to flow, right? Because I believe it is, I was trying to say David Goggins, Bill Gates. I believe Bill Gates is that individual. I believe he takes a week or two off and just secludes himself somewhere and just is surrounded by nothing. And it is at those moments in where his biggest thoughts and biggest ideas come to mind. But then those moments in where you're just surrounded by nothing, you're not forced to do anything, you don't have work to worry about, you don't have to do anything, right? So specifically in Keith regards, it's not like if you're going to leave Keith and things are just going to go down the drain. Like, nah, you got the team, you got Jackie, you got Kirsten, you got Michael, you got everybody on the team that's going to make it work. And then every one of these shows are self-sufficient, right? We can all do our part and run the station without you, right? So we have to understand that at some point, man, we think we're going to have to chill, because like if we don't chill, our body is going to chill for us, right? Keep saying he takes a break every day. Taking a break on the toilet, just chilling when you sleep, don't really add up to a break, man, because even though you're staying up late, right? I stay up late so I can chill. Nah, you got to get to sleep. And I used to be one of those people as well. I can operate effectively. I feel as if I can operate effectively off of about 4 hours of sleep. I don't need the 8. I believe the 8 is entirely too much, right? But staying up late, you're not operating at your optimum level, right? Not operating at your optimum level. Bro, I think God told me to tune in today because I'm on 22 days of working. Tomorrow will be my first day home work. Yeah, Terrence, bro, you got to sit down, man. We got to sit down, man. I've been there. And trust me, you're going to be at work one day, you're going to be doing, and then it's just going to shut off. It's just going to shut off, and you're going to be sitting there frustrated because it's going to be at that time in which you need your brain and your mind and your talents the most, but nothing's clicking, nothing's firing, and there's going to be a certain time to where you just feel stuck. We get stuck because we've been doing this too much. We've been focusing on this entirely too long. I'm not saying give up. I'm saying give yourself a quick break, whether it's 1 day, 2 days. I'm going on a 2-week vacation, whatever it is, right? Do what you have to do to take your break so you can refresh, so you can reset, because your tank will run dry. No matter how much momentum you feel as if you're running off of, no matter how much passion you're feeling you're running off of, that passion means nothing if you have no energy behind it. That momentum and that energy means nothing if you have no energy behind it, right? Because you can have all of the will and all of the want in the world, but if you're not able to really take a second and just chill for a day, for a few hours, and completely disconnect. I'm not saying chill and be thinking about this, be thinking about the show, be thinking about work, or be thinking about whatever you're doing while you're chilling. No, I mean completely disconnect, right? Let people know you're not coming around. I don't want to be talking about it or anything like that. You deserve a break. Banana, my good friend, I love you too, girl. So moving on into the self-care piece, right? Moving on into the self-care piece, the one thing that I want everyone to implement within their self-care journey, right? And this is something that actually happened today, as a matter of fact, right? I had another thing that I was going to speak about within the self-care piece, but this is something that actually triggered, I guess, me wanting to speak about this here, one of the things I don't want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen is to try your best to figure out new ways to learn something weird or different every single day, right? New ways to kind of spice up whatever you're doing by learning something every day, right? The reason is to that is because we sometimes can operate off of a rhythm, right? We sometimes operate off of a rhythm, right? A routine. And we know what's going to happen. We know what we need to do. We know how much energy we need to put forth. We know exactly how to do to get there. And that gets boring. Over a certain amount of time, that really, really gets boring. And then once that gets boring, we're not really giving our best work. Because we know what to do, we know how much to do it. Like I know myself with work, with one of my jobs, I just go in there, do what I got to do, and just leave. Because I feel like I've been there for too long. I feel like I've known much of it, right? But in order to just spice up, I guess, a little bit within your day or a little bit within your world, man, learn something new that day, right? And the reason why this popped up today and was so crazy, right? It's including me, 1, 2, 3 guys in this room. Out of those 3 guys, raise your hand if you keep your phone in your front pocket. They both raised their hand, right? Every guy that's listening, I'm sure, every guy keeps their phone in their front pocket, right? This girl told me, she's like, Willis, you need to don't put your phone in your front pocket no more. I was like, why? She's like, Willis, your phone is killing your sperm. Your phone is not only reducing the amount of sperm that you have, but it's also diminishing the quality of the sperm that you do have, right? The EMF, right? The electromagnetic frequency or electromagnetic field that the phone gives off, it is decreasing it. And I was like, nah, I didn't believe her. So I went and did my research, did my studies and everything like that. It has been dramatically, a study, I can't remember where I found it from, but within that study, it was speaking about how the sperm count within men have been dramatically decreasing because they've been putting it within their pocket for past years, right? So for me, that was kind of wild. That was kind of crazy. It kind of sent me into this whole little place to where I'm researching and finding things out and things like that. Same with you, right? Learn something new every day. Find something weird. Find something crazy. Find something whenever, right? Learn something new every single day, so that way it can kind of spice up whatever you have going on in your day, because sometimes our day can get really boring if we're living a routine type of life, if we're living a life that we know what's going to happen next, right? So the new way, go on YouTube, search something, find something, weird things about your body, weird things about life, weird things that just weird facts, right? So it could, 1, be a conversation starter, 2, it's kind of actually funny, 3, you're going to start to look at things a little bit weird. Like I'm looking at this phone a little bit weird, and one thing I've been doing since she has told me on my phone is to research certain ways in order to block off that EMF that the phone is giving off. It's this one little thing called Xubi, XUBI, that you can get on Amazon, right? Xubi, XUBI, it's like a little ring or something that you just stick on the back of your phone, and it blocks off the EMF, right? So that way you won't have to do it, right? Or turn it off. No, we can't turn the phone off because it's important. We got messages that we need to go on and blah, blah, blah. You put on airplane mode, right? You could put the phone on airplane mode, right? To possibly block off certain things. But we live in a day and age to where ain't nobody trying to turn off their cell phones. I'm not. But bro, I got so much excitement. It's tough to settle down. I look forward to work. I'll be pacing around in my house just thinking. Yes, right? When you are in a place to where, Keith, where you're in a place to where you're excited about everything, that's a really, really dope place to be. A fantastic place to be. But the thing is, right, no matter how excited you are going to be, you're going to need a break. You're going to need a break. The break doesn't have to be 2 weeks like I have to do, right? But it's a day, a few hours, half a day to where you just escape. All of those ideas, all of that momentum, everything in which you're just pacing. You're very excited and everything. Dope. Keep that energy. Keep that energy, but that energy is only going to last so long. You taking a break does not mean that you're getting away from whatever you love. You taking a break does not mean that you're losing the love. You taking a break is actually telling yourself that, hey, I need to actually take care of myself so I can be able to take care of the place, or take care of my business, or take care of this, or take care of that, right? We got mental health days and we don't use them. So even as an entrepreneur, Keith, right, use your mental health days, right? Don't feel obligated, right, to think that you have to work every single day when you have a team that you trust. That's the thing. You have a team that you trust. You built a team that you trust. Use the team that you trust in order to take that break, man. Dieter, my bad. I keep my phone in my pocket all the time. Will got more jobs than Jamaican. Yes, I do have more jobs than Jamaican, but hey, I make it work, make it work, make it work. So, as we move along into the main topic of the show, remember, everyone, for the self-care piece, the one thing I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, try your best to learn something new every single day. No matter if it's weird, no matter if it's funny, whatever it is, whether it's about animal, technology, yourself, life, whatever. Learn something new every single day, man, just to bring a little spice within the routine that we live in. So, moving on forward into the main topic of the show. I got my man Marcus.
What's happening?
Marcus, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I feel like it's been I feel like you should have been on the show like a whole lot sooner. A whole lot sooner.
Hey,
and
never on schedule, always on time.
Never.
Always on time.
Man, the reason why I guess I waited so long in order to bring you onto the show is just because I wanted to make sure I brought you on something that I believe, one, we both could discuss, obviously, but also I wanted to make sure it was something that I know you could be a little bit, I know for a fact you're going to be confident in. Because for me, and the topic of today's show, the topic of today's show is mindset and discipline and how it relates to mental health. Yeah. Right? How it relates to mental health. And one of the reasons why I brought Marcus on, he's a personal trainer. You've been personal training for how long?
About 10 years now.
About
10 years plus.
10 years plus.
Yeah.
Right? What got you into personal training?
Ooh, that's got some weight to it. So long story short, what got me into personal training, I grew up low confidence, low self-esteem. And fast forward, I had, my high school friends, Kevin and DeAndre, went to the finest academic institution in the nation, Gardena High School.
I don't know about none of that. All right.
Moving forward. So anyway, fast forward, we start playing football and, just in the streets, turkey bowls and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I kind of like this. I think I'm going to join the team. 11th grade, I joined the football team. Didn't know a lick of football, so I was getting knocked around all over the place.
You joined late.
Yeah, really. And so, I was always on the band geek side. So anyway, fast forward, I started doing little workouts in the magazines so I could, catch up as much as possible.
You would look at the magazine, find a workout to do it?
There'd be little, there was a, I think it was called Slam or something like that. I think it was a basketball magazine, matter of fact, or some kind of sports magazine. And so I had a little push-up, sit-up combo in there, and I started doing it. And again, because of that lack of self-love that I had, I didn't look in the mirror much. So then one day I just happened to be cleaning and moving stuff. I look in the mirror, I see, whoa, whose chest is that? Ooh, I start seeing little lines in the stomach and whatnot. And so from that moment, even though it might have been on the surface, just looking at myself, it that moment pretty much cemented what I would be doing for the rest of my life. And
so that moment, that was a positive? Whoa.
That was a revelation. That was basically that. It was a visual representation of having a belief and then immediately realizing that belief was false. And so,
down for me.
Well, I guess from what I'm saying is, that a lot of times that lack of self-confidence and self-love, etc., comes from a state of, you're not really believing in yourself. You're not doing things to love yourself. And, it's a combination of many things, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to see that type of change that I was able to make and having not seen it, right? So it kind of gave me a representation visually like, whoa, if I actually put forth certain actions, I can actually get a lot of results.
Uh-huh.
And so from that moment, it gave me pretty much a 180 on my mindset. Like, whoa, if I can do this, I wonder what would happen if I start reading more about it and get ahead of the game and start learning more about it. That means my results can get even better.
Yeah.
It'll grow exponentially.
Yeah.
And then from there, moving from the physical plane, I started to move into, okay, well, how can I do better mentally?
Yeah.
And mentally, how can I do better emotionally, spiritually, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was pretty much what I mean when, it kind of sent me on that 180 where personal development came into my consciousness.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everything changed from there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be able to provide that same feeling of transformation to somebody. And that's where the personal training piece came in. I'm like, oh, so you mean you can, actually make a pretty decent living providing people that same experience that I was able to experience. You know what I'm saying?
What about, though, when it comes to personal training, when it comes to helping the other person within their personal development journey, what is it about that you get out of it?
What is it that I get out of the journey of people focusing on their personal development?
Yeah, when you help, because what you're doing is you're helping someone with their personal development.
Yeah.
What is it about the journey that you are helping on that keeps you within the journey, that gives you that fuel or that energy to continue to do it?
Well, two things. One, I feel as though because I had that experience, it's kind of like I paid the price up front.
Yeah.
Going through the low self-esteem, the low confidence, scared to speak to people, terrible social skills, and I'm still working on that.
We all are, man.
And hell, even at some point when I was young, even mildly suicidal thoughts, and I might be minimizing it more than it is healthy to, but just anyway, I know how that felt. You know what I mean? And I never will forget those experiences.
Yeah.
And so it's empowering. It's empowering to be able to see and to contribute or plant seeds for people to be able to, take those seeds and water them and grow them, and then they get to see the fruits of their labor.
Yeah.
And for me, it's empowering in a way that not only do both of us learn in this transaction, in this exchange, but also, being able to just being able to see like, wow, okay, when you really work on planting seeds in somebody, you can really empower them.
Yeah.
I read something the other day that said something to the effect of leadership is about empowerment. And I see myself, in terms of that bigger purpose in my life as being a leader, one of the world leaders. It's
very empowering, but it's also very empathetic. Right, and I commend you for tapping into your empathetic trait.
I appreciate that.
I believe we all have an empathetic trait within a lot of us, but the thing is in order to tap into that empathetic trait, we have to be able to tap into ourselves, right? A lot of the demons that you were kind of just speaking about. Before you could be the best personal trainer that you possibly could be, before you could fully assist someone within their journey and to help, because what you're doing is boosting their confidence, you're boosting their self-esteem. You're a therapist, all in a sense.
Absolutely.
Right? You're a therapist in a sense. So in order to do that, right, and be as empathetic as you can be, you have to go ahead and tackle your own demons. So I'm always going to commend you, and for anyone else who decides to embark on that journey when it comes to tackling their own personal demons before trying to assist someone with theirs.
I appreciate that.
Because it shows how much you are accountable. It shows how important you believe you are. Instead of just, hey, let me go help somebody else out so I can run away from my own stuff. Yeah. Right? So I commend you on that, my brother, because it's being a good personal trainer. Not just someone who just works someone out, but also someone who could help that person not just physically feel better, but spiritually feel better, emotionally feel better, mentally feel better. I commend you for being able to do that.
I appreciate that. And if I may add, personal training is much more than just squats and push-ups and sit-ups.
Yes, it is.
And I find a lot of people, they go into it, with their mindset heavily on the physical.
Yes.
And usually through my coaching, people will come to realize that there's definitely that therapeutic piece to it. You know what I mean? It's one of the many healing modalities, I would say, or therapeutic modalities.
Yeah.
And so people don't realize until we start talking, like there is a definite mental component. There's a definite spiritual development that comes out of those experiences. And so with personal training, even the term, I sometimes wonder, is that term personal training, you're training a person, you're empowering them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if health coach would be a more appropriate terminology, just because oftentimes personal training is looked at from a very superficial view. You know what I mean? You're in Beverly Hills, I'm gonna get me a personal trainer, and then I eat my organic, oatmeal and my polenta. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I sometimes wonder, is it the appropriate terminology for the connotation that it has on a massive level? At any rate, just understand, for anybody that's listening, or for everyone who's listening, personal training is much more to it than squats and push-ups. Yeah, you might be working on your body, but understand that it's a journey and a component of self-love.
It's a journey and a component of self-love. Keith, man, he said personal training, barbers, coaches.
Absolutely,
all
no,
life.
barbers. If I wasn't personal training, I would be a barber. That's for sure. I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
Actually,
some of the deepest conversations I've had is with some of my I've only had probably a handful of barbers in my life, but some of the realest conversations that I've had is with my barber, which is my homeboy Tony. He actually just turned 26, 25, one of those. He turned that the other day, but he's been cutting my hair since I was probably damn near in 9th grade, middle school, and he's younger than me. You know, so it's just that connection that you have with someone that you're able to have that conversation without judgment of anything.
I'm so glad you brought up connection. The other piece to personal training, and this can go for pretty much any type of work where you're dealing with people, you know, whether it be sales, customer service, or what have you.
Yeah.
With personal training, it's good to understand that some people I don't think are aware of it, but understand that, you know, push-ups have been push-ups forever. Yeah. So a lot of times when you're working with a personal trainer, it's definitely that connection that brings people in. Yeah. You know, bicep curls been that forever. And there's a definitely in that field, in the health field, there are exercises that are progressing and movements and understanding of the body that is definitely growing and evolving. At the same time, understand that connection with who it is you're working with, that's the number one deal. And I would encourage anybody, whether you're interested in personal training or any type of
helping professional.
Exactly, helping professional. You know, take that time to really be open and find that person that you can connect with. Yeah. Even if that means working with various people in the beginning so that you can bring it down to a group or to one person. Yeah. Take that time to really get to know them and connect with them. Yeah,
connect with them and make sure you connect with yourself first.
Yes.
Make sure you connect with yourself first. Yes. So one of the things why I believe it's important that I brought you onto the show is because, and this is a good segue into, I guess, the main topic of it, is when it comes to personal training, right? A lot of individuals say abs are made in the kitchen and have to go to the gym and things like that. I don't really think people understand that when it comes to going to the gym and when it comes to dieting, it's not an aspect of actually doing it. It's more of a mental thing. Yeah. Right? And the reason why that's so important for me right now is because I feel as if I'm lacking in that capacity when it comes to a certain mindset, right? So I'm an avid gym goer, right? And I've never been the type of gym goer because like I want to get buff or I want to get big. I don't care for all that, right? I'm going because it's a form of therapy for me, right? I'm going to release aggression, right? Yep. The biggest thing that I've been struggling with when it comes to the gym is consistency. Right, and the one thing I've had to understand, it's not because I'm not being inconsistent because it's something that I just don't want to do. I'm being inconsistent because I fell off when it came to the discipline. I fell off when it came to the mindset of what I'm actually using this for. Right, so one of the things that I believe is important we speak about here on this show is how important it is to really make sure you adapt a positive, more effective mindset within your daily life and how you can be able to create that discipline. I actually just decided to do this Thursday. Yeah, I actually just decided to do this Thursday. When I get back from Peru, I'm actually going to go to the gym like 90 days straight. 90 days straight.
That's
I'm going
to
try 90 days straight.
Much respect.
And I'm going to do my best to hold myself accountable. Not because I'm trying to get fit, but because I'm trying to figure out, one, how to fully create discipline, the right discipline back within that life, but also really adapt and change the mindset that I have on certain things. And I have to start somewhere, right? So why not for me start with something that I like, start with something that I enjoy. 90 days is something that's challenging, but we have to understand when it comes to discipline, when it comes to creating an effective mindset, right? You have to take on a journey that is somewhat challenging. You have to take on a journey that you feel as if you can't do, but never forget what's going to happen on the back end, you know? Yeah. So That's what I feel as if the one side of mental health that we really don't speak about. Well, we speak about it, but I don't believe how people understand how intertwined those two things is, right? Your mindset and how do you create that mindset is thoroughly important.
Yeah.
So for you, when it comes to creating that mindset within other people, within yourself, right? Because you've had your own personal struggles growing up. What were some ways and how were you able to really create that mindset and bring that into now, even though you've been hit with a bunch of things throughout life?
Right. In terms of making it a lifestyle, I believe you have to develop lifestyle habits.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things that I had to learn, and I'm still learning and still working on, doing my best for, is whenever I say, for example, if I have a particular goal I want to work on coming into the gym more, I have to create an environment. And I've been reading a book that one of my clients gave me. Thank you, Mina. Appreciate that. It was by James Clear. I think I wish I could remember the term. I think the book is called Atomic Habits. And ultimately it talks about, you can do better when you create the environment to help you meet the goal.
Yeah.
For example, from a fitness standpoint, let's say you're trying to get into the gym more. You need to focus on certain habits that will help to yield that result of going into the gym more.
Mm-hmm.
Being aware of what day it is, what time each day you're going to go, what you're going to work on,
yeah,
where you're going to go, whether it be inside the gym or outside otherwise, putting all those details together, keeping your gym clothes in the trunk of the car,
yeah, so be ready.
And then having various pairs of shoes or whatever, so you're ready. Just, again, creating that environment, keeping water in your car, keeping it next to you, keeping the healthier foods around you, even baskets of fruits and things like that. And again, these are all things I'm working on myself, but I just bring that to everyone's attention. Oftentimes, we have an environment that doesn't yield us to be healthier or to go to the gym more. And that is usually why we find it difficult. Even though we might have the mental discipline, or we might be mentally prepared to go into the gym, we still haven't cultivated the environment to help us get to that point.
Exactly. And that's not even just like with the gym. That's everything within life, right? If you're living within a toxic environment,
right,
you yourself are going to be toxic,
right,
in some type of way or fashion, right, some type of way or fashion. So it's about cleaning out that environment, changing the environment, figuring out. And sometimes, I always say this, sometimes it has to be about getting rid of certain people within your life.
Yeah.
Right? Cleaning out that closet, or cleaning out that phone book, or whatever it is, right? Tanisha mentioned last week she started incorporating making up the bed, right?
It's a beautiful
after
thing.
The show, right? That's one of the self-care pieces that I gave last week, right? Making up your bed every single day. You're
creating those wins. I think that also goes back to David Goggins' piece that you brought up earlier.
Yeah.
Can't Hurt Me.
You read the book?
So I just got into it. Another client of mine gave me that book.
Good.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. So that's where I do a lot of my learning. I mentioned to a lot of my clients that I like to read, and occasionally they feel the need to bless me with some references, some resources. So I'm always thankful for that.
And the one thing, how far are you along within the book?
Oh man, I'm a couple pages in, like
pages?
preface, and here's the the table of contents. I speak about it a lot though, because I speak with my client who's already read it.
Okay. So the one thing I want you to try to implement within your life, that you're going to get out of the book, and the one thing I got out of that book, definitely try to make sure you do at least one thing that you hate or dislike every single day. He's big on living in the suck and understanding how pain is a beautiful thing.
I didn't document it, but I already would practice that in the personal training field. And I'll just say, you end up working with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, and sometimes those personalities don't necessarily align with yours. So that one hard challenge, or that one way to challenge me, is to sometimes work with people intentionally that I don't necessarily vibe with. They won't know that, but working with them allows me that opportunity to kind of work on shape-shifting a little bit this is a challenge working with this person, but what are the ways that I can adjust myself and strengthen myself? Because ultimately, if you're having a hard time vibing with people, I feel that there's always a way you can adjust as necessary to be able to, work with that person a little bit more.
But what about when you're working with that individual who is working with that difficult client? At what point do you have to realize that, hey, I have to back off from this client?
Yeah. Well, you might do it in spurts, if you will. So ultimately, when you feel you've gotten your fill, you have an option like, hey, once we, depending on the relationship between the trainer and the trainee, you can set it up to where, maybe you're only meeting for a month, so once the time has come for, an opportunity to re-up, you let them know, hey, I won't be able to move forward in this particular fashion moving forward. Whatever way you would say it, just, say it as tactfully as you could. But, ultimately, it's your choice. And then you can share with them. Another thing you can consider is sharing with them feedback. Sometimes you don't vibe with somebody off top, and then you have a couple conversations and things change. Yeah. So I guess the best answer I can give you is another hypothetical on top of the hypothetical question.
But what you said right there, and what stuck out to me is the fact that you have to understand that it's your choice.
Yeah.
You have the ability to make that choice if you want to continue to stick within it and continue to get out of it. And I think when it comes to creating a positive mindset, or when it comes to creating an effective disciplinary type of behavior or habit, it's the choices that we make within our daily lives, right? Those small choices.
Yes, sir.
Those small choices, right? It doesn't have to be the big. And I think sometimes we overindulge, right? We don't really monitor how full we are. Sometimes we take on too much, or sometimes the goal is too big and too lofty, right?
Yeah.
The goal can be big, and that's fine. But we have to understand, in order to get to that goal, there's small increments. So we have to break it down.
Right.
And I think when it
benchmarks.
comes... Exactly.
That's what I learned working with my own therapist.
Yeah.
I had big goals, and I always have for a long time now, and just learning that I need to set benchmarks. Because what happened is, this has just been my experience, and maybe there'll be others, viewers who chime in and say the same or other similar stories. I'll have big goals, and they'll be lofty. They'll be all over the place, but they're constantly ruminating in my mind. And because I don't set those benchmarks to get me to that point, I may have even gotten there or gotten close, but didn't realize it because I didn't have the benchmarks as checkpoints to help me. So then I stay in a state of, man, I need to be doing this. I should be doing this. And I'm constantly beating myself up and not praising and expressing gratitude of where I'm at in that present moment, because I'm not setting those benchmarks. So thank you for bringing that up. Mm-hmm. You just helped remind me of that.
When it comes to you constantly beating yourself up, how long do you stay within that mindset?
I suppose it depends. Mm-hmm. Once I become aware of it, I work on changing it ASAP Rocky. As soon as I can. It's like, okay.
But how difficult is it to change it, though?
It can be difficult if you are not seeking ways to make it less difficult. Seek ways to manage your difficulties. So to help me, I put together a variety of different things. One, I did a simple old Google search on, the internet. How can I not beat myself up, or how can I meet my goals? What can I do? And then a great quote, reading is the cheat code to life. So reading books that talk about, meeting goals or setting goals, etc. Listening to audiobooks, surrounding myself, with people and speaking to them who are in, great positions, or at least what I think to be good positions, or in a position where I want to be, because they too have had these experiences. So you have to really just work on managing it to the best of your ability.
But what about for those individuals who are too far off onto the negative side of having a mind state, because we have a lot of people within this world who are extremely pessimistic.
Yeah.
Right? When they're just way too far gone. A simple Google search or them reading a simple book, because their reality or their mindset is so negative, they're going to look at it like, oh, I'm not even finna read that, or that's not what I need now. Right? For you, right? When it comes, have you ever been in a place in where you either had to work with the individual, or have you even had a personal experience to where you felt as if you were way too far off into like negative mindset of things?
I've had experiences when I was younger where I was way too far off into the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose I've come across people who are in that same mindset. And it's kind of a two-pronged answer. I'll say for myself, for those times where I was too far off into the negative continued to happen. So, you know, I think I learned it's easy to accept it when you accepted it. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's kind of like whatever you're thinking, you're going to validate it through your reality.
Yeah.
And for someone who's so far off, it could be difficult to get out of that by themselves, I would believe. But the first step, and I guess this is moving into that second prong of the answer. The second step, or I guess the next step, would be you have to decide that you want things to be better.
Yeah.
So despite how negative or how far off you may be, do you want it to get better, or do you just want to keep ruminating on the fact that it's not where you want it to be? And I think innately, most people want things to be better.
Oh, definitely.
Despite how pessimistic they may be. And so through conversation, hopefully they can have that self-realization. In the event that that's not the case, you know, you have a support system, hopefully, or even myself, where, you know, we learn like, hey, you can get out of this. It's really not that bad. And through learning, you know, their experiences, learning what it is they're going through, sometimes that'll give you the context you need so that you understand how you need to speak to certain people.
Yeah.
You know, they can be so far off, but then, you know, they have a real good cry in your arms, or you give somebody a hug and they get that just enough oxytocin to put them back into a good mood. And, you know, things will change from there.
It's about being a little bit, all of that, but also what I've realized is being a little bit open to the positive stuff.
Yeah.
Because when we're stuck within that negative mindset all the time, we're really just blocking off everything negative. It's exactly what you said, right? When we think negative, our reality is going to line up as such. Right? So anything else that goes against how we're thinking is not going to, you know, come into it.
Right.
So that small second in which someone is able to cry on your shoulders, or that small second in which someone is able to open up, that's a small little glimpse of positivity that person may need in order to begin to open it up. But it's a constant thing, right? When it comes to discipline, it's about consistency. When it comes to creating a positive mindset, it's about consistency. Trying to be consistent within your own personal development, especially when everything else is telling you otherwise, is extremely hard. Yeah. It's extremely hard for a lot of individuals. And I can say personally for me, we get distracted.
Very easily.
Very easily. We get distracted. Not even just leaving, like, social media is like a new distraction. But even when social media isn't around, we can easily get distracted. We find distractions in order to get away from certain things.
Escapisms. Absolutely. I've been practicing these last couple months what my escapisms are. Social media is one of them. So usually social media, I'll get on for the weekend, but then I delete the apps. I delete Instagram and Facebook and things like that off my phone Monday through Friday. And Friday I usually will get back on and I'll stay till Sunday. Okay. Even after this, you know, I'll be deleting it again. You know, I'm making some posts regarding today, but after that, back off so I can focus on business.
What's the positive things that have came from that?
I became more reflective. I learned more about myself. I think it was easier to stay in the moment. Okay. And it made me aware of how much I like to escape. And so you don't realize those few seconds you're scrolling, how they turn into hours. Every Sunday, my phone tells me how much time I spend on my phone. And the amount of time that was spent on entertainment, social media versus education, phone calls, etc., was like, it was very polarizing.
Is that an app that you have to your phone? Or is that just
I guess it's on an app or iPhone. It's screen time. It comes on every week for me.
Oh, okay.
And it just did it automatically. I didn't know it did that, so I just kept it on there. So like, since I've been on it, I've gone down anywhere between 5 to 10% in phone usage each week. And even earlier we were talking about phones, and so while you said that, I made a goal for myself. I'm going to keep my phone in my locker when I'm working with my people, and I'll get on in between as necessary, but that way I can stay off of it. I put the do not disturb on there. I put, cut off the notifications just so I could spend less time going to the phone. Mm-hmm. And that has been a tremendous help. I've been much more reflective. I feel as though I've been able to get more done, or at least I've been able to get done what I would get done if I'm not distracted.
Yeah.
I recommend it to anyone who finds themselves, addicted to social media or just on their phone too much.
And even creating that positive habit, or that being disciplined enough to learn how to step away, being disciplined enough to be able to step away from the phone.
Steve Jobs did it.
There has to be some type of reward. And I think for you, it's about, you found the joy in being able to escape.
Yeah.
For a lot of people find a joy in escaping into their phone. And that right there, I guess the lack of discipline in which goes within that, right, has to be created through some type of reward that you get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes where we get rewarded in many different ways, but we really don't acknowledge those rewards because they're not big.
Right.
They're not extravagant. They're not big in comparison to the other people who are getting certain rewards. And I think when it comes to discipline and when it comes to mindset, you have to be okay with the things that you have. You have to be okay with your small wins. We don't acknowledge our small wins. We don't think our small wins are effective. We kind of just throw them over our shoulder all the time without understanding that those small wins is going to create something bigger. I know for me personally, it's I'm trying to pay attention to my small wins. I'm trying to pay attention to those small little W's, but because my mind is somewhere else, right? Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it's something that we gotta, I guess, figure out how to do.
Yeah.
What about you?
In terms of helping to eliminate distractions and setting rewards,
in order to try to build that discipline.
Well, one of the things I think will come out of it is the reward of actually meeting the goals that you set. If you're eliminating the distractions, there's a purpose behind it. So you got to ask yourself, why do I want to eliminate these distractions? One of the other benefits I got was I was able to read more, and as a result of not being on it as much, and as a result of me learning more, I had more to give to other people and empower them in some aspect. So, I think eliminating distractions goes into the goal setting. Somebody that's trying to get into the gym more, 90 days, you got to eliminate the distractions that'll keep you off that. When you're on Instagram scrolling, you know what I'm saying? That's taking away that time you could have been doing those under that squat rack.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So little things like that, they add up. In those few seconds, they add up.
And then sometimes you might not even hit your goal, but there's going to be...
But you make progress.
You make progress. That's what I was just going to say. You're going to make some type of progress in another area in which we don't pay attention to.
Absolutely. And so documenting it is another way where it can be helpful. A lot of times even for myself personally, I go to the dollar store, buy a bunch of journals, and I just write in them. And I encourage a lot of my clientele to do the same thing. It's so easy to be distracted because you're trying to escape from all the things running in your mind. You get a journal, you have an opportunity where you can take all those things running in your mind and transfer it to paper, where now it can be written out. It can be a strategy that's accompanied with it. And it's out of your mind, making space for ideas. And I think the more cramped your mind is, the more cramped your life becomes, the more you move into survival mode. You know, by putting it out on paper, it helps to make more space. It's kind of like you're clearing space. Same thing when we run out of storage space on our phone. It stops acting right.
Exactly.
And, you know, the computer is modeled after the brain, so you better believe you stop acting right when you're crowded.
And
Open
that
up
goes
that space.
and that goes into the book that you're reading, the David Goggins book, right?
Okay.
When it's, I believe in the book he was speaking about whatever your mind is telling you to do, whatever your mind is telling you not to do that opposite thing. Somewhere in the book he's speaking about that.
Yeah. Take the path of most resistance.
Exactly. Take the path of most resistance, because that's going to yield the biggest reward.
That's what personal training is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why connections are built so deeply, so quickly in the world of personal training. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just had to feed off of what you're telling me. And oftentimes people are coming in under the context of, hey man, I suck. I don't like where I'm at right now and I want to get better. So they're coming in transparent. They're coming in vulnerable, relatively speaking. And I want to get better. And this is one of the few industries, to my knowledge, that still exists, that is very pure in that way, where you have to come to someone and express to them your quote unquote weaknesses, so-called weaknesses, or areas that you would like to improve in. And then you have to take the path of most resistance the whole time to get there. You have to resist the temptation at all the parties and functions and soirees, etc., to eat better and drink better.
Yep.
You have to practice actually putting something heavy on your back and lifting it up. You have to learn how to move weight with weight on your shoulders. You have to learn how to move when you may not feel like it or when you're tired.
You have to learn how to be honest. And when you're coming forth with that, right, when you're speaking about that, it's a lot of honesty within it. And I think a lot of times we aren't critically honest with ourselves, right? Going back, I guess, to David Goggins' book, right? He used to tell himself certain things such as like, oh, I'm fat. He has this thing called the accountability wall, accountability mirror. Right. Speaking about everything that's on that wall, the things that he didn't do, he would purposely tell himself, you are fat, or you are this, or you are that. We have to create an area in which we have to create a mindset and a discipline in which we're extremely honest with ourselves, because we can sometimes feed ourselves lies, feed ourselves bullshit to get through it, right? Just to ease the pain or ease that path of least resistance, just so we can make it a little bit more tolerable.
There was another book I read called When Good Intentions Run Smack Into Reality, and I want to thank you, Paris, for that. He recommended that book to me.
Good Intentions Run Smack Into Reality?
Run Smack Into Reality. And within that book, he talks about the experiences. So you can say, pretty much you can tell yourself anything. I'm fat, I'm smart, I'm dumb, whatever the case may be. And you'll attract, and your lenses will kind of focus on those experiences that you have that help to validate whatever declaration you've made. So if you're constantly saying you're smart, you'll constantly find yourself, or you'll likely find yourself in situations, or be able to look at situations in such a way that validate that statement that you made. And the same happens when it's negative, or at least when you interpret that experience to be negative. And it also talks about how we sometimes give ourselves BS. And oftentimes when you are being dishonest with yourself, you may do it quietly, and so no one else can hear it or no one else knows, but you know. So subconsciously, your own inner self, your spirit starts to, not believe you. And it starts to, you start having an unhealthy relationship with yourself. So then you can tell yourself or somebody that you're going to do something, and then you won't do it. And, even though that'll sometimes rub people the wrong way, you've done it so many times to yourself, you're not even aware that you're going to do it. And I have to check myself oftentimes. I try to be really cautious now of my wordplay, because I don't want to say, let's do this, and then it never gets done. Or I'm going to talk to you on this day, and I'll never do it. Because every time you do that, you lose credibility with yourself.
True, definitely.
So, I just wanted to.
Nah, that's the truth, but it is. I guess I'm thinking about what you said in the beginning. Like, there's one side of me that kind of had a little bit kind of like disagrees with, I guess, and I haven't even read the book yet, but just going off of the brief synopsis that you did give, the part of me that disagrees with it is how sometimes when we're thinking a certain way, we're going to run smack into that, right? Only reason I say that is, for me, right, I come more from the David Goggins lens. I'm telling myself the brutal and honest truth.
Acceptance.
Right? Yeah, I'm telling myself the brutal and honest truth. I'm trying to accept it. Because when I'm coming across situations, I always tell myself, like, Willis, you're a bitch. Willis, you're this. Willis, you're that. For me, it's not the first thought that's important, but it's about that. It's about that next
What
thought.
you gonna do about it?
Yes, it's about that next thought that comes after that negative thought.
Yeah.
Is it you're not a bitch? Is it no, you're greater than that? And for me, if I'm able, and if anybody is able to combat that negative thought with anything, that means you believe in yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a tiny ounce or a tiny speck, you believe in yourself that much. So that first thought could sometimes be there just out of habit. We could habitually think negative, or we could habitually think positive. But what about that second thought? What about that thought that follows that negative thought? Is it something that's going against that negative thought in order to kind of create a better you?
Right.
If it is so, lean in towards that second thought. Lean in towards that one little thing that you know is giving you a little bit of light amongst all of the darkness that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves in that hole of self-doubt all the time. You're never really going to get out of it.
Right.
You don't get out of it, you're going to be stuck there forever. And then that mindset is going to really just be your life, be your lifestyle, in which we were speaking about earlier. That negative mindset is going to be that negative lifestyle. And those disciplines, the discipline that you do have is always going to be disciplined towards the negative side. It's not going to be a positive or an effective way of being disciplined, but it's going to be a negative and defective way of being disciplined. But it's about understanding how you can be able to be thoroughly honest and accountable for the things that are popping up in your head. And if you're not able to do that, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good luck.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
Putting together those thoughts after that initial thought, very important. And I believe at this time, at this point in my life, that still requires a level of awareness, you know. And I often find, like for my own personal situation, you know, whatever negative thought I would have, like, you know, of course this would happen to me, da-da-da-da-da. At that time, I also didn't have the awareness that my thoughts hold weight. So I wonder, you know, going back to, you know, you can say, hey, I'm this, I'm that. And then you follow it up with a more empowering thought to move forward with. I guess my question would be does that require, or did that require a level of awareness from you? Did you always think that way? You know?
It does. For me, it does. It's about what side are you leaning to, right? Thoughts are powerful. Thoughts are very powerful. But the one thing I always tell my patients is we need to put more attention on how long we're focusing on that thought versus the thought itself. Because I believe even though a thought is powerful, the amount of time you spend on that thought is so much more powerful.
Yeah.
So being aware of that positive thought, one, is the first aspect, but also focusing on that positive thought is somewhere that I always try to stick to. Throw that negative thing out there, but also the positive thing that's going to come after that to combat it, stick with that.
Yeah.
Because we can get lost in the negative side. We can just think negative all day. And like you said, what we're thinking is going to become our reality, and we're going to come across a bunch of negative things. Even if the situation was not negative to begin with, we're just going to view it as negative. So it's always going to be negative, because that's where all of the energy is going towards. So awareness, but also attention. And to whatever thought is coming, right? The positive or the negative. Make sure you're aware of how much time you're spending on that thought.
Yeah.
You know.
Ooh-wee. I dig that.
So moving on forward to the main topic. Not the main topic. This is the main topic. But the question that I have for everyone, and it's also it's something that you kind of brought up, Marcus, within it. And you kind of skated over it, but it's something that really stuck out, right?
Okay.
And the question is, how are you validating your life? Whether it's negative or positive, how are you validating your life? And I want you to think about, when you're answering this question, Marcus, I want you to think about how have you been validating your life positively And how have you been validating your life negatively? Even if going back to your childhood, how have you been validating your life on both ends of the spectrum?
How have I been validating my life, both positively and negatively? And by validating, you mean kind of confirming the experiences that I have, like, of course, this will happen to me, etc.
Correct.
I'm going to take a moment to think about that.
Go ahead.
At this time, I believe I've been validating my life in a positive way, or from the positive standpoint. I feel I've been validating it by working on my personal development. And let me know if I'm not quite understanding the context. I'll gladly adjust. But I've been working on personal development to help validate my life in a positive manner. You know, I have goals, and on top of that, you know, there's a lot of people that I run across in my life on a daily basis. And I feel as though, you know, I want every exchange, or as many exchanges as possible, to be empowering, positive, or at least neutral.
Yeah.
And if it does come off negative, I'll quickly adjust. So I guess validating my life, been focusing a lot on personal development. That's been through, again, reading, speaking to people who know more than me or have wisdom in other aspects based on their own personal experiences, who, you know, have resources, networking with people. And recently I've been going with the flow on things. So if there's something that I feel like doing, I kind of do it.
Just go with it.
You know what I mean? I go with it. And sometimes it comes a little bit out of spontaneity, and sometimes it's planned.
Yeah.
But a lot of times going with the flow, you know, it kind of just, it aligns with my vibe right now. This is where I'm at. And so I've been doing a lot of little things like that to help validate on the positive side. On the negative side, and this one I think is a little tougher to answer, and maybe that's because I try to, you know, distance myself from that kind of thing. I think that's what most people try to do. How have I been validating my life negatively? I would say through my experiences. I may validate my life negatively from not, you know, necessarily having a plan in certain experiences. So then it might move in a direction I didn't want it to move. But, you know, I didn't take that time to think about how it could be done better. And I guess that's could be one of the drawbacks of going with the flow sometimes. You know, like, oh, okay, now it's moving in a direction I didn't anticipate or didn't want.
Yeah.
So I say perhaps, you know, going with the flow is something that also could be looked at on that other side as well. I would say ultimately, though, I'm not sure how else outside of just living your life you can validate yourself negatively. I mean, I might have experiences that I don't necessarily want to go to or that I'll look at as negatively, but I really do my best in working on how to leverage it. How can I parlay it into a more positive or constructive piece?
Yeah.
You know, growing up, failure was a big deal, and I used to get my butt whooped and all kind of things, and you know, I'd have to put on suits to go to school when I wasn't acting right and all these kind of things.
She uses suits as a punishment?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what my father would have me do.
Okay.
And that came with its own stuff that's still in my mind mentally, but I guess that could be for another episode. But again, I had to work on that healing, you know, from holding on to negative thoughts because of those experiences. But anyway, I guess I say all that to say, like, I had to learn how to leverage so-called failures into a positive, whereas most times negatives are looked at as negative. But I think they can be leveraged into a positive and help to create a more positive vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Even I had, for a short period in 2015, I was designing shoes and creating shoes and things like that. And I don't do it anymore. But I don't even look at it really as a failure, even though I wanted to sell them and do well. And they're still sitting in my closet to this day, But I didn't look at it as a negative because just growing up and through working on that personal development, I started to realize that failure can be a beautiful thing where it can really make you stronger.
Yeah.
And what helped me with that was personal training, where you get into the practice of handling a load that you may not be able to necessarily care for or manage. And sometimes you ain't going to be able to do as much as you thought or get the result you thought you'd be able to get. Yeah. I was trying to bench press such and such this many times, and I could only get it half of what I anticipated. Yeah. And that could be looked at as a failure, but now I have a benchmark where I can get stronger from. Or even though it's a failure from what I wanted to do, it was way more than what I did the first time I did it. So anyway, to go back to the question of how do I validate negatively, I guess I just accept, if there is a so-called negative experience, I accept that I don't like it. Yeah. And I work on changing it or leveraging it to look at it as a positive for me to grow from.
Just being aware of it. Yeah. Just being aware of it. I can say for me, right, when it comes to validating toward the negative side, I guess is when I know something is negative, but I still do it. You don't have the awareness or the discipline to prevent the negative behavior that you're about to embark on. Yeah. And that negative behavior doesn't necessarily have to be, doesn't necessarily have to be something as crazy as like fighting another person. It could be something small like, hey, you told yourself you were going to the gym today. Now you're not going.
Right.
You're going against the negative. You're validating that side by actually, going along with it. On the positive side for me, that's one thing that I have to validate. That's one thing that I believe I have to work on validating. Is the positive things that I do because I'm so forward thinking that it's hard for me to remain in the present that I don't give myself the ability or the time or the credit to actually validate the positive things that have came within my life. I believe that's why this trip to Peru for me is so big, because it's like one of the first times in which I fully feel like I'm rewarding myself. When it comes to a lot of things that I've been through, when it comes to a lot of things that I've overcame, and some of the things that I've done now, it's, I would say, one of the first times that I fully rewarded myself. I haven't really rewarded myself from, gaining 2 master's degrees. I haven't really rewarded myself from having this. I haven't really rewarded myself from anything because we're constantly in go mode. But when it comes to negative things within our life, we validate those things by, certain behaviors, by, by continuing to do the negative behavior, even though we know we shouldn't be doing it. So for me, I have to create that discipline in order to really reward or validate the positive things that are within my life or the positive things that I've created, by actually having that awareness, but also having that confidence. Yeah. Right? Having that confidence within myself to be able to just go forth and do something, even though it failed, right? With the creating shoe things, even though that may have failed, there's a light within it. There's a lesson within that could be pulled out of it. We just have to have the tenacity to try to pull it out of it. So, that's what it goes, man. Yeah. But Marcus, man, thank you for coming through, my man.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I sincerely appreciate that.
This is the first one, but this ain't the last time you're gonna be up here.
Yeah, I feel as though there will be more conversations to be had.
There will, because I know how deep you can go.
You think so? I'm still learning myself.
I know how deep you could go. I feel like we kind of hit the surface. So much more. And I just believe just men, I guess, when it comes to being vulnerable, or men speaking about things that are kind of tough. I don't really think as far as I know, it doesn't really appear as if you've been one to kind of shy away from it. Obviously it's tough, and you acknowledge the toughness within it. Right. But you're not afraid of taking on, the resistance. So we have more conversations to have in the future.
Yeah. And if I may end it on this note.
Go ahead.
Am I able to, provide people ways to find me and different things like that? And before even myself, you mentioned something about, being transparent, being vulnerable. And there's a gentleman, and all these people I'm about to bring up, you can find on Instagram. There's a gentleman, his name is Jason Wilson, and he's over, his company is Cave 313. He's based in Detroit, Michigan. And he has something called emotional stability training, where he works with young boys in the area.
Yep.
And he really working on improving that emotional side, and being able to express your feelings when you're mad, you're sad, you're happy, whatever the case may be. Just being aware of it and being able to channel it. And within that, he does that under the guise of self-defense, where they work on mixed martial arts and things of that nature. So it's a great opportunity where you're testing young boys, but you're working through that physical channel.
Definitely.
So it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, I'd suggest to everybody, or as many people who find it interesting, to follow that. You can find me personally at Cargill Fitness. That's CARGILL Fitness. And you'll see me posting different things on exercises, health tips, etc. And I'd like to, if that's all right with you all, give a shout out on a few other people. These are just people kind of in my circle. It's not limited to just these people. There's people that come to my mind that are doing good things, and they're all in the LA area for most of them. We have Jamila of Sugar Rush Bar. So if you like your sweets and things like that, I'm getting that out the way so we can talk about the healthier things too. But I got a sweet tooth, so I got to bring it up. Kia over Honey Queen Lemonade. Amethyst, who's over Kids of the Cosmos, so that's an educational piece for young kids. We have Mark Cargill, who's my father, but he's also a musician. So for those looking for music or looking to develop their own music or build their brand in that way. We have Sean Laprie, who focuses on women's fitness and women empowerment. Jason Wilson, again, I already mentioned. My boxing coach for Training Wheels Healthcare, his name's Andrew. You can check him out as well. Soko, who both of us know.
Yes.
With therapy, that's Chill AF at your favorite therapist. And David McCullough was the gentleman I brought up earlier when we were having conversation. He's over Enhanced Potential. That's another place in Detroit. So yeah, Brass Knuckle Finance, BKF University is the handle. And he really helped me work on my financial health and improving, paying off different debts and minimizing expenses, maximizing income, which I think goes into the whole fitness and health component at any rate. So just wanted to bring up those names. And again, anybody that I may have missed, please let me know so we can move forward. And when I get on the next show, I'll give you a shout out too.
And that's important because even before we actually started this, we were speaking about the importance of creating a team or just collaborating with other individuals and how we need to really try to do that, right? So I can say with myself, it's hard for me to collaborate with other individuals because of certain vices or certain anxieties that I have within myself. Same with you. But, just understanding the people within our circle and how we can all work together in order to be as dope as we can as possible.
Absolutely.
Right? It always is a beautiful thing. Always in a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful
yes.
thing. Beautiful thing.
To the audience there as well, I encourage you all to work on changing your team. And I mean change in two different ways. Either you change the people that you're around or you change the mentality of the people that you're around. Either way it goes. But by doing that, you can empower yourself and empower others, and you improve the quality of the circle that you're in. And then from there, big things start to happen.
Yes. Big things that you have, man. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Marcus, my man.
Thank you sincerely. I appreciate
so much
that.
for coming by. You will be here again.
I look forward to it.
Thank you to all those individuals who are listening. Banana, I did a social media detox just to go somewhere for a week and relax. Yeah,
I respect that. Congratulations.
You need that.
Try it again.
Do it as much as you can.
Yeah.
Whether if that social media detox is a day or 2 days or whatever, do something to just get away from the normal life that we're living, because we don't understand how sometimes those small little changes within our routine will be monumental to our personal development and to our growth. So continue to do that, man. Thank you to everyone that's listening. If you're going to hear this later on today, if you're going to hear this tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, thank you to you too. If you're never ever going to listen to this at all, thank you to you too, man. I always say, if you haven't catch on yet, you will catch on eventually. There's always somebody that needs to have a conversation around mental health. And mental health isn't just about suicide. Mental health isn't just about depression. Your mental health is about those things, but your mental health is also about your well-being. How great do you think you are? How powerful do you know you are? How happy are you at this moment, right?
It's
are you
empowering.
living a good life? Are you living all of these things? And mental health is not just sadness. Mental health is also happiness. Mental health is also optimism. Mental
all
health
encompassing.
Is also all of it, right? Because before we have to deal with our physical, we have to deal with our mental. Our mental will leak into our physical, and that's how we have to understand whether it's negative or positive. It's all gelling together. It's all gelling together.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to you all. And as always, please understand, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.